So after a lengthy time away from action due to the summer break, F1 was ready to go again for the second half of the season, with the first race back being the Belgian Grand Prix held at Spa Francorchamps, the site of last year's race that wasn't a race but technically was a race, so that F1 didn't have to bother with the paperwork or refunds involved with cancelling, the thieving bastards. But coming off of the last outing in Hungary, Max Verstappen had a massively commanding lead in the championship, with the biggest lead at the summer break since Vettel in 2011, with the Dutchman currently 80 points ahead of second place, and the person in second place was Charles Leclerc. I'd say Charles Leclerc for Ferrari, but if the season so far has been anything to go by, you'd genuinely think the team were trying to sabotage him. Meanwhile, at the back of the pack, there was truly sad news, as after the results in Hungary, Nicholas Latifi could no longer win the Drivers' Championship. But then again, we know that fact doesn't stop him from wanting to get involved anyway. Hey guys, it's Taron and welcome to the On Track channel and to round 14 in Belgium. Before we get going, a quick reminder that if you do enjoy the video to make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more weekly F1 content. Also, it's good to be back. Now with that out of the way, let's get into my honest review of Formula 1 and the 2022 Belgian Grand Prix. So, just a day into the summer break and silly season was already in full swing, with Fernando Alonso announcing he'd be leaving Alpine, with the Spaniard leaving the French outfit as they were only willing to offer him one-year contracts, which to be fair I can understand as not many teams would want to commit multiple years to a dinosaur with a chiseled jawline. But luckily over at Aston Martin, President Snow from the Hunger Games had a load of Canadian money going spare, given his world champ driver Sebastian Vettel had just retired. And so Alonso was signed for the team on a multi-year deal, and not gonna lie, given Alpine a 4th and Aston a 9th, it kind of looks like a textbook Alonso career move. And then back at Alpine, everyone just assumed that Oscar Piastri would be brought in to fill the vacant seat. In fact, Alpine themselves even tweeted out that the Australian would be promoted to the race seat for 2023. And it was at this point that Oscar woke up and chose violence, electing to come out and basically say, "What do you want? I'm not driving for you next year." Which sent the F1 world into meltdown and gave me my fastest growing videos ever. But as you can see, the person to lose out in this is Daniel Ricciardo, as McLaren have seemingly made it clear they're going full Thanos and trading one Australian soul for another. As come Wednesday afternoon, the team announced that Daniel Ricciardo would mutually leave McLaren at the end of 2022. Not gonna lie, it's maybe the most one-sided mutual split I've ever seen. But I do actually understand, as from McLaren's point of view, he's not been too great, and it's been clear for everyone to see. Everyone except EA Sports, that is. Elsewhere, and there was something exciting happening at Singapore. No, I don't mean good on-track racing for a change. But the news was that Call of Duty would be adding a map based on the circuit. About time that place saw some action. I know I just made basically the same joke twice in 10 seconds, but like, come on, it was right there.
One time is funny, two times is f***ing annoying, no?
And finally, Lewis Hamilton had started a new business venture as he became part of the group intending to take ownership of the Denver Broncos, meaning that alongside Mercedes taking an L for the season so far, he can now go home and take some L's on the football field too. Into FP1, and there was a new face on the track as Liam Lawson was in control of Gasly's AlphaTauri. It would probably be Yuri Vips as the lead Red Bull Jr. instead, but well, he's Yuri Vips. Sticking with drivers of an F2 standard, and Nicholas Latifi was the first to cause some drama, as his car was braking in the first few minutes, and with that kind of reliability, you'd think it was a Ferrari. But the Canadian wasn't done there, as he went out into the pit lane directly in the path of Max Verstappen. And from the Red Bull's perspective, if come Sunday he's still having to make an overtake on Latifi, well, it's all gone wrong. Over at Alfa Romeo, and Bottas was wasting no time to leave a mark at Spa, literally, as up Eau Rouge he thought he'd turn on the assist for the other drivers and give them a racing line to follow. And that would be his only contribution to the session, as like a true 2022 Alfa Romeo, he was very quickly back in the garage having his car fixed for the rest of the session. Fast forward a little and there were issues for Kevin Magnussen, the Dane stopping on track just after turn 1 with the battery issue, and given dodgy electronics are well kinda dangerous, it took a good 10 plus minutes to clear the car. So long that by the time everyone went back out on their slick tyres, it had started raining, giving 8 minutes to end the session of everyone just tiptoeing around a half-wet track. Before FP2, it was news of grid penalties galore, with Leclerc and Verstappen just two of a few drivers that would be starting towards, if not at the back of the pack. Meaning on Sunday we'd get to see the pair battle the way through, up to the front of the field, at which point Ferrari will probably box Leclerc for no apparent reason. Into the session though, and while we got to watch Lance Stroll getting angry for no reason whatsoever, we also heard Otmar Szafnauer's thoughts on Oscar Piastri, with the Alpine team boss saying he hoped the Australian would have had a bit more integrity. Yes, because F1 is known for having teams having integrity and not looking to find any sort of competitive advantage whatsoever. Also, if Otmar wants to get annoyed that Oscar did sign a contract with Alpine, well, you shouldn't have ridden it so badly that he could get out of it. I mean, just look at Ricciardo. He clearly knows how to put in a good clause or two, or even Williams with Russell, managing to trap him there for 3 years. Back on track, and Carlos Sainz was back to his flirtatious relationship with the gravel, running wide at turn 13 and kicking up dust in the process. Not gonna lie, it kinda looks like what I'd expect from a Ferrari engine come race day. At McLaren, it was Norris avoiding running into the back of Lance Stroll at the bus stop chicane. Honestly, no clue what was going on with that one. But after that, the raindrops started to fall and made conditions treacherous, with Gasly going and doing a Carlos Sainz and heading into the gravel. And at Mercedes, it wasn't easy for Hamilton, as he went off at Les Combes and then had a squirmy moment through a Rouge de boot. Also struggling was Mick Schumacher, who went off but managed to keep his car in one piece. On to Saturday now and FP3, where nothing much was happening besides Joe sitting atop the times for basically half the session, with his car amazingly not braking for a change. But it wasn't until later on in the session when there was any real drama, and that initially came from Max Verstappen, under investigation for not slowing for double yellows, but in the end it was all fine. Not quite as fine though was Charles Leclerc, as he was busy bringing out the red flag, deciding to lose the rear and put his car in the barriers for absolutely no reason. Wait, this is Belgium, right? I'm not just having flashbacks to France? Well, luckily for Charles, it wasn't France and he could get out of the gravel with minimal damage. But going into quali, it was the Red Bulls topping the times with Checo Perez at the top. Into qualifying then, and the pace of the Red Bull and Ferraris was clear to see, occupying the top 4 spots pretty comfortably. And at Mercedes, where they'd hoped the rule change mid-season would help them, they still sat 10th and 11th. But the final runs matter, and after those it was a mix of cars out, such as Bottas not really trying given penalties to come, Tsunoda had a chance to go through but well bottled it into the chicane, and Seb was knocked out by 0.02 of a second by Schumacher.
Oh no.
Oh, and Latifi was knocked out in Q1 as per usual. Into Q2 and the Red Bulls and Ferraris were quick, except Leclerc, who went onto the grass and then went power sliding in the chicane. Also in the mix were the Alpines, with Ocon slotting into 4th and Alonso 7th after those opening runs. And come the second runs, the top 8 places were occupied by the top 4 teams. Sorry McLaren, but well, you are kinda in 5th and heading backwards. But that didn't stop Lando getting through in 9th, with Albon in his Williams in 10th, helped by the car actually being the fastest in a straight line. And given that almost half the grid had engine penalties, it would be at least a P6 start for him. So then into Q3, and it was time for some classic Ferrari comedy, as they fitted a set of brand new tyres to Leclerc's car, given he was heading out to tow his teammate Sainz. But he was told to do a lap afterwards anyway, and after wasting a lap of his tyre life, came across the line in P4, 8/10 behind Verstappen. So then, the final runs, and I'll keep it concise given all these penalties. Alex Albon was 9th in Q3, therefore 6th to start the race. The Mercedes pair were still slow AF, 7th and 8th in quali, 4th and 5th on the grid behind Fernando Alonso, leaving Perez in P2 behind Carlos Sainz, to start the race that is. In quali Verstappen beat them all, by a good 6/10, having only done 1 lap in Q3. On to lights out, and Sergio Perez forgot what a start was, losing 3 places off the line having pointed his car in the wrong direction. But the real lap 1 drama was courtesy of Lewis Hamilton as he tried to make a move for second place past Fernando Alonso. I say tried as well, yeah. And that left him with too much damage, pulled over to the side of the track and out of the race, also giving rise to what I can only assume will become a Boulevard of Broken Dreams album cover. Then over at Williams on lap 2, it was time for the latest episode of Nicholas Latifi tries to be an F1 driver, as he ran wide into the gravel, spun across the track and tagged Bottas, which left the Finn stuck in the gravel. As one thing remains clear, when Latifi is on track, no one is safe. But all this brought out the safety car, which meant everyone realised that Verstappen was already up to 8th and Leclerc up to 9th, at which point Max started playing real-life Mario Kart and dropped the equivalent of a red shell behind him, which was his visor tear-off that found its way into the brakes of Leclerc, forcing him to pit and have it removed, also sending him to the back of the field, because if strategy and reliability weren't already against him, it appeared the visor tear-offs had it out for him too. But after a few laps we did get going again, with it soon becoming clear that Max was playing a real-life last to first challenge, setting the AI difficulty to 0 and breezing by everyone, to the point where on lap 12 he was already into the lead. I mean, Sainz did get back past through the pit stops etc, but that didn't last long, as on lap 18 it was time for Max to retake the lead, meaning there had been just 15 racing laps before he was ahead of everyone. Also meaning that from 14th on the grid he had overtaken pole sitter Carlos Sainz, before Perez, who started in P2. And while that was happening, there was something going on at Williams. Latifi was moving backwards, that is, as he was first overtaken by Ocon in a nice double move into the chicane, and then up Eau Rouge by Mick Schumacher. At this point though, there was really not too much happening, thanks mostly to Alex Albon, who was doing his best Thomas the Tank Engine impression and leading the world's fastest DRS train. But it worked for the Williams driver as he led that train for literally the entire race, because on lap 38 he was still ahead of half the grid in 10th place, picking up the final point. Elsewhere, there were some cars not stuck behind Albon and actually racing each other, as Ocon, Vettel and Gasly went 3 wide on the Kemmel Straight, with Alpine's only driver for next year coming out ahead. Back towards the sharp end, well, I mean almost the sharp end, as this next point does include a Mercedes car, but George Russell was catching Carlos Sainz in third with both cars on the hard tyres, as one thing is incredibly clear, and that is Ferrari need to take every set of hard tyres they have between now and the end of the year and burn them. Over in the other Ferrari though, and Leclerc was sitting comfortably in 5th place, until he wasn't, as the team boxed for fastest lap and came out next to Alonso only to be overtaken straight away. Because despite a 4-week break to regroup themselves, the Ferrari strategy team still proved to be as useless as Man United are at negotiating fees for players. And to make matters even worse, despite overtaking Alonso, not only did Leclerc not get the fastest lap, but he picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so their attempt to gain 1 extra point resulted in them actually losing 2. But back to the teams that actually appear to try, and Max Verstappen was leading home a Red Bull 1-2, with the Dutchman taking home first place, from 14th on the grid, and winning by 20 seconds, a drive so dominant it makes the 96 Chicago Bulls look jealous. Anyways, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed, do make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more F1 content, but until next time, take care.